Okay, so now what we will gonna do, we will see this unauthenticated access issue or vulnerability. For that, we have challenge number 14, in which we have to find an endpoint that does not perform any sort of authentication check for a user. The challenge is pretty much simple. Application is utilizing token in order to authenticate a user. So now what we have to do, we have to find an endpoint where the token is not necessarily needed, and that particular endpoint where token is not needed, where the token is not needed, is kind of revealing some sensitive information or some important information which should be disclosed only by an authenticated user. Okay, so for that, what we have to do, we have to navigate, or we have to enumerate the entire application. We have to check each and every functionality of the application. Correct. That will gonna be the tedious work. Yes or no? Correct. But in order to make this thing pretty much easy, Burpsuit has one of the extension which is known as Authorize. Okay, so this is what my extension looks like. And now what I'm simply gonna do, I will simply going to copy this entire JWT token over here. Okay, and I will paste the entire JWT token here, and I will turn on the authorize. But what I'm gonna do now, I'm simply gonna replace some of the JWT token so that my JWT token should become invalid. Okay, and now whatever request I'm gonna intercept, I'll have to send this request to authorize. Send request to authorize. Okay, now once I send all this request to authorize, authorize will gonna map it, and authorize will gonna give me the information. Okay, what sort of information? The authentication status as well as the unauthentication status. So suppose when this request was captured, this shop request was captured, the authentication status was bypassed and unauthentication status was also bypassed. How? So for that I will click on this. Okay, so this is the authorization bearer, and this is the modified response, which is this. I don't need that. I need specific endpoint. Do I have a specific endpoint over here? No, I still don't have the specific endpoint. Let me pause the video for a second. Okay, I specifically need an endpoint, and all these are the, I mean, all these are not at all an endpoint, but this is the API endpoint. And if we check the modified request, we do get to see the invalid JWT token. If I see the unauthenticated request, we do get to see the message which states JWT token required. Correct. But what if I check the original request and response? So this is the original request, this is the original response, and yes, if the JWT token is valid, then only we will be able to see this correct response. So this authorize, what it has three different type of request over here. First one is the modified request and modified response. Correct. So this modified request uses the modified version of JWT token which we have entered over here in the configuration. The original request tend to utilize the correct authorization bearer token which was captured in the HTTP proxy in the intercept request, and the unauthenticated request, what it does, it will simply gonna replace the authorization token. Clear? In this way we can see the three different variant of our HTTP request and responses. So this pretty much makes our job easy. Now what I have to do, I have to simply navigate to each and every functionality of the application, and I can turn off the intercept, and the authorize will automatically gonna log each and every request and give me the three variant of all the API endpoints, the authentication, I mean the modified request, the original request, as well as the unauthenticated request. So let's do that. I simply clicked on dashboard. So as you can see, the dashboard uh, endpoint has been intercepted over here. If I click on shop, yes, shop request has also been added in our authorize. And let me buy a certain vehicle, so not vehicle, certain wheel. Okay, I bought this wheel. These are the orders, previous orders, correct. What if I click on this order detail? This order detail was also, endpoint was also has been intercepted. What if I go ahead and click on community? Yes, community request was also intercepted. What if I make a new post, test, test, and I add a new post? So yes, now as you can see over here, if I am getting this enforced message or enforced syntax over here, this indicates that the current HTTP request or the current endpoint require a valid JWT token. If a particular API endpoint has this bypass message, that means that the particular endpoint doesn't require a valid JWT token, it can be bypassed. Okay, but here is the thing. If you can see over here for this dashboard, for this dashboard endpoint, if we can, if we check the, what you say, if we check the modified request, so over here we have this our modified authentication bearer token, and if we check the modified response, then we do tend to see the correct HTTP response. This indicates that even if we modify the JWT token, we can get the correct response. So let me send this request to our repeater. Okay, and port number was 8443. Invalid host, local host. Okay, no problem. I'm gonna copy this and I will have to send this one and I will replace it with this. And yes, you can see the user's dashboard. What if I change some more value? Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This value? Yes. So it, for this endpoint, it doesn't matter if I change the authorization token, it will still gonna show me the valid response. But what if I change this value? Suppose I'm changing this value and this value. Will I be able to get the response? No. Given email address is not at all registered. Okay, let me go in my inspector. And what is this? This is the algorithm. And what exactly is this one? This is the email ID. So let me change this. Instead of D, I will use E. And as you can see now, the given email address is not registered. 404. That means we cannot proceed with this endpoint. What our goal is? Our goal is to find an endpoint that does not perform authentication check for a user. Correct. So we have to identify an endpoint which doesn't require this JWT token at all. But this indeed requires JWT token, because if we check the unauthenticated status of this request, it has this enforced word written over here. That means we do require a JWT token for this endpoint. But there is one thing. If we see this specific endpoint which has this API shop order 12, this endpoint's authentication or authenticated status as well as unauth status both are bypassed. That means uh, if I select the unauthenticated request and if I go to the response, I do see that in this request the authorize has removed the JWT token, but still we are able to see the valid response. Correct. So this is our endpoint, and this endpoint doesn't require user, what you say, this endpoint doesn't require JWT token at all, and one can easily fetch the order details. Correct. Let me close this. This was the dashboard. If I replace this and if I remove this, okay, no problem. Let me copy paste all this localhost and 8443 from here. I will add it over here. 8443. Okay, and yes, I can get the card number. I mean, although the couple of information are masked out, but we do get the last digit of card number, the card type, card expiry, card owner. You see, all this sensitive information is directly visible over here without any sort of authentication at all. What if I change the order value? Suppose 10. Yes, indeed, we do get different options. So for order number 10, the quantity was 200. But for order number 12, the quantity was 1 and the status was delivered. Correct. So this is the endpoint and this reveals the sensitive information without authentication. So in this way, we can solve our challenge number 14. That's all. In the upcoming video, we will look at the different set of JWT attacks, different set of JWT vulnerabilities.